Time now for our morning rounds medical news of the week. When it comes to colorectal cancer, the latest data shows an overall decline in cases for older Americans. But for those 55 and younger, it's a different story.
Earlier this week, the American Cancer Society published updated colorectal cancer screening guidelines for those at average risk. In a major change, they now say screenings should start earlier than previously suggested. Here to discuss this and more is CBS News medical contributor Dr. David Agus, who joins us bright and early from Los Angeles. David, good morning.
Good morning, Anthony.
So what are the headlines coming out of this new study?
It's pretty bad. First of all, calling people over the age of 55 older is kind of scary.
Yes, it
is. Older Americans. But we're seeing this trend of colon cancer happening in earlier in younger people. You know, I had a case in their 20s of colon cancer. Several decades ago, that was unheard of. But for some reason, there's a demographic shift. And so now the new recommendations are to get screening, which is predominantly colonoscopy, the gold standard, would happen at age 45 instead of 50. That's a major shift in this country. Remember, there's still 50,000 people a year dying of colon cancer, which is predominantly preventable if you have a screening test.
You said there's a demographic shift, some reason. Do we know potentially why we're seeing this in younger people?
I certainly wish. I mean, whether it's that we're larger, we're more sedentary, our diets have changed, we don't know the exact reason, but we're seeing this shift, and it's rather surprising, this increase. And, you know, a reaction to the increase is hopefully that we reduce these deaths. Over 3,000 deaths a year in people under the age of 50 from colon cancer. So the shift hopefully will reduce the numbers of death in that demographic.
David, you mentioned colonoscopy, which is kind of as the gold standard of testing, but there are other types of testing. I mean, how do you decide what to do here?
There are other types of testing. You know, colonoscopy every 10 years. There's sigmoidoscopy. There's the test where they look for blood in your stool. Have a discussion with your doctor of what's the right one. Each of them have risks and benefits, and none of them are perfect, but certainly have one of them and have the right one based on your family history and your risk profile to hopefully prevent this disease.
All right, our next topic deals with terminally ill patients and experimental drugs. On Wednesday, President Trump signed into law the Right to Try Act. It allows certain drugs not yet approved by the Food and Drug Administration to be administered to terminally ill patients who have run out of other options. David, break this legislation down for us a little further, if you could.
So this is something that President Trump announced in his State of the Union address in January. That is that drugs that are not yet on the market, they finished initial testing, what we call phase 1 testing. And in people with end-stage illness, so you know, don't have any other standard treatments to get, can get these drugs. Right now, I give them to patients routinely with the FDA's permission. The FDA has approved these drugs 99+% of the time, and it's usually within 24 to 48 hours we can give these drugs. What this new legislation says is that we're going to take the FDA out of the picture, that the individual can negotiate, the doctor and the patient, with the pharmaceutical company and get the drug without the FDA's involvement.
Just because people can get the drug, though, David, it doesn't mean the pharmaceutical companies necessarily will be giving them the drug. So what are the obstacles here?
No question about it, is that I don't think this will change very much what's going on. We routinely can get drugs, we call it compassionate use, in patients who have no other treatments, and pharmaceutical companies many times do this. But this legislation doesn't mandate the pharmaceutical company do it. And there are a lot of risks for the pharmaceutical company. There could be side effects. The patient can potentially even sue the pharmaceutical company. And they could take the focus off of developing the drug and maybe slow it for other patients. And it's actually costly. And so I'm not sure this legislation is going to do a lot. There's certainly a lot of press or media about it, a lot of hype around it, but doesn't really change the landscape in treating patients with end-stage disease.
All right, one last topic, David. As the weather gets warmer, so does the urge to spend time outside. But are you paying enough attention to protecting your skin? Prolonged and unprotected exposure to the sun could lead to melanoma, the most dangerous form of skin cancer. According to the American Cancer Society, more than 91,000 new cases of melanoma will be diagnosed this year alone. A majority will involve men, accounting for a little over 55,000 of these cases. So some basic ideas that people should keep in mind to just prevent any damage from the sun, not just melanoma.
So UVA, UVB lights from the sun can damage skin. Wear sunscreen, especially between the hours of 10 and 4. A cloudy day, UV light goes right through the clouds, so it doesn't matter whether it's cloudy or it's sunny. Wear sunscreen and protection. The best thing above sunscreen is wear long sleeve cotton shirts, wear a hat. Try to keep your skin out of that sun. You will thank yourself years to decades down the road because you'll prevent skin cancer.
Dr. David Agus, thanks so much for being with us this morning.